and welcome to the Flute Voice. I am one of your lovely co-hosts, Ozma in the Dark. I am here with my pronouns are she, they, or whatever. I'm here with Perfict, who always seems to be here. How are you doing, Perfict?
I am doing fine. And I'm he, him.
And Christy is taking the day off, so we have brought in Sophia to be a lovely guest co-host. How are you doing?
Hello. Yes, hello. I'm Sophia from across the water. Pronouns she, her.
Yeah. Oh, and our guest couldn't make it. Oh no.
Oh, we lost perfect.
Oh no, we lost Perfect. Um, our guest couldn't make it. Perfect will be back. I'm watching the participants thingamabob. Wait, I'll click that again. Yes, our guest unfortunately couldn't make it tonight due to pupper condition issues. um, but the pupper should be doing well in like a day or so. So hopefully everything will be fine for everything should be fine for the pupper. I'm referring to dogs as puppers now. So, figured we'd start with a little bit of whatever before we got to our main topic. Um, so, I mean, what's been going on in the news outside of Blair, or maybe including Blair White being
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
weird
Okay.
and
Yes.
awful?
Blair White put out a video. Um, I think it was entitled something like "J.K. Rowling says I'm a biological man," and it sounds like from that title that she was going to disagree with J.K. Rowling, but no. Blair White proclaims that nothing that J.K. Rowling has said is transphobic.
Yeah, that that seems like the classic thing where it's nothing the people in power can say could possibly be wrong. And wow.
We've lost perfect
Yeah,
again.
Perfect must be having issues.
This stream is not perfect.
Uh yeah, everything about this has been one of those weeks. It's you know what it is? It's because Christy stepped away. It's caused the the show to become cursed. Christy's actually our good luck charm. I don't know if you knew that. Hey,
Well, maybe we should find out a bit. Ellen Arnie is available.
oh, fuck! I didn't even think about her.
Do you want me to tweet her?
I can tweet her. It's not like
She might be already in chat. You get her on. She's always got an opinion on something on everything.
um, perfect. Are you actually finally here? Perfect. The curse has continued, hasn't
Hello.
it? Oh, hey.
Oh yeah.
You're going in and out a bunch.
I had noticed.
Um, words. I don't remember what I was saying. Something. Oh, yeah, that. I can go check. I can't believe I didn't think of her.
Oh, Christ.
Wow, what's going on? We dealt with this as a program because
It was
it
all right
seemed to be
before
the
we went
most
on air.
stable for people. Um, what? Oh. Okay. Perfect. 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 You hear? You keep popping in and out. I blame.
If I knew, I'd stop doing it.
I blame the pandemic. You know what? It's the pandemic's fault. Well, no, it's not the pandemic's fault.
That's what I blame it on anyway.
No, I blame it on internet companies not being able to handle all the extra internet because of the pandemic. I don't know.
Oh, I've just found out I got booted out the Jewish Labour movement. Oh, damn.
Oh,
I'm really disappointed about that one.
wow. That's oh my god. Okay. So how did you get booted out of the Jewish labor movement?
It's because I tweeted something this morning. Essentially, they're being hypocrites about. There's been problems with anti-Semitism within the Labour Party, and they kept accusing the former leader Jeremy Corbyn of anti-Semitism. Yet nothing he said was explicitly anti-Semitic. He would criticize the Israeli government, yes, of their treatment of the Palestinians, and rightfully so. However, when Keir Starmer became leader, he appointed Rachel Reeves in his shadow cabinet, and she has, in the past, praised a known anti-Semitic politician, and I called them out for that on this.
Yeah, because that's fucked up. Hey, hopefully, do we have to like wish you to stay on? Is that what's going on? We have to like hope for the best. Do we need to create an internet religion specifically for the purpose of keeping Perfict on?
Yeah, that would probably help.
Okay.
It couldn't hurt.
Well, it would take extra time, and I'm incredibly lazy today. Because today is another off episode, I suppose, in that it's less planned out. Although that arguably makes it a crazier episode. Anyways, so I suppose this is going to be happening a lot. I'm guessing. I suppose we should go and talk about riots and organizing, because union organizing. I mean, for one,
well, all the labour rights which have been won over the years have been hard fought and generally usually through direct action. In this country, from the Charterist movement on. As for LGBTQ stuff, I know trans women who really have an issue with me advocating direct action, and I will always say, oh, what about the Stonewall riots? They kick-started the LGBTQ civil rights movement.
Yeah, and
I'd also point out it was trans women who actually started those riots.
Yeah. and not cis gay men or whatever.
Yeah. It's people have tried to try to alter history, but you know, you hear accounts from, well, everyone: Jane County, Martha P. Johnson, Sylvia Rivera. You know, they were all there.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's with a lot of times with this stuff, it's not going to. Um, hey, Perfect. Did you switch computers or something? I suppose I have to wait for a couple seconds.
Did I switch what?
Computers or something.
No, but I did decide to try and connecting again,
Oh, it's just
as opposed to letting it reconnect.
Well, you sound better this time. You don't sound like you're cutting up.
yeah. Yeah. I was curious because you didn't obviously you didn't automatically jump in. I had to let you in. So yeah. We were just starting in on riots and organizing, and obviously there are elements of
I think you shouldn't use the term riots. I think you should use the term protest. Riots makes it sound like it's a bad thing.
Oh, sorry. There are um uh two separate things. I always get the impression that riots are not organized, and I get the impression that
Oh,
protests are more organized.
I mean, I have been to a protest which did turn into a riot, and it did bring about change, and that was the poll tax riots back in 1990.
Yeah.
Um, and that did bring about the downfall of Margaret Thatcher. Really. Well, it was part of it, but you know, not exclusively. But you know, that was, you know, you know,
It I mean it took massive protests just to get anyone to listen to
yeah,
the people here in the United States calling for action against police officers and whatnot.
yeah.
Like you need like large scale protests sometimes just to get anything done. Arguably, you could. I would say that you kind of have to fight for everything in the system as it currently is. Like it's a major problem. Well, I consider it a problem. Um, Although not everyone does for whatever reason. Uh,
Uh, you always hear conservatives who say protests don't achieve anything. I mean, I'll give you an example. A few years ago, I went to an anti-Trump protest in London. And then all these conservatives, you're not going to get rid of Trump. That wasn't the point. The point was the more people that turned out, the more that the media had to actually take notice of it, and you know, give a platform to those people who was speaking on behalf of that protest. You know, so they could get, you know, they could talk about, you know, why there is an anti-Trump protest. And you know, I remember that afternoon, 300,000 people turned out in London.
yeah. Um,
I mean, sure, sometimes politicians. I mean, I was at the on the Iraq anti-Iraq invasion march. 2 million people marched through London that day. Um, and did the government listen? No, they didn't. But at least we knew that there was a you know, strong opposition to that war.
well, and that's why I think for some things, the way things are, protests can't just be a day. I mean, people are still protesting. Um, the just all the police measures that have been used, the way the police system is set up in America. It's just there's and just to get basic stuff done, that's not going to get people murdered by police officers, or at the very least significantly less people murdered by police officers.
Right.
You're never going to stop all murder.
No. Um, you know, and the thing is, media pundits are going, "Oh, there's people were protesting because they've got nothing to do because they're out of work," as if there wouldn't be mass protests. Anyways, I mean, look at what happened after Rodney King. That was at a time when the economy wasn't as bad as it is now. Unemployment was fairly high for the time, but people came out because the racist cops were let off.
Yeah. But yeah, with a lot of this stuff, I think I did accept Perfict. Yeah. Yeah, I think with a lot of this stuff, it's just a lot of times people don't know what they can do. It's very easy for people to feel helpless in society as it is, even in terms of because obviously there's some people who it's a choice between protests and starving, or they feel it's that way, and sometimes people. Wow. I feel sorry for Perfict at this point. Sorry. Yeah, it's very easy for people to not know exactly what to do, and that's admittedly why more people should learn some of the elements of organizing.
Yeah.
Because I know I definitely was never taught anything about organizing union stuff, organizing.
No. This I was actually taught about the union movement at school.
Oh.
I was. Mind you, I had a history teacher who was an Irish Republican.
I mean, that'll make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Perfict? Are you there? Are you saved? Are you just going to end up getting kicked out randomly by the horrid internet gremlins? I think someone I was on some show I was on mentioned internet gremlins. Anyways, yeah, and with a lot of stuff, I know solidarity gets brought up a lot, although it's hard. You can't really be. Solidarity requires both sides to be fighting for each other.
It's all that I kind of feel that those who own the means of production own own the media. So they're always sort of portraying that the workers are just being bolshy and lazy and demanding better pay and better working conditions and stuff, right? But here's the thing: those in power would, those who own the means of production, would not be as wealthy as they are if it wasn't for the workers.
Yeah.
Try go ahead and be a wealth creator when you don't have labor to exploit. Go on, try it. Yeah, in
Well,
the present system.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think a lot of that deals with the fact that you have to. I always get the impression with this stuff that some of the cruelties of things are similar to abuse. Um, Basically, the people in power are abusing and exploiting people for more power,
Yeah,
and that's why it's important to make friends, to get people together, and to not try to um, not try to quietly get things done, or get help from your boss. Arguably the worst move. Um, yeah, I saw some basics of organizing or whatnot. Um, and yeah, you don't want to. You need to
well,
talk to people and get people to group up and not mention things until you're ready.
the, um, yeah, I've been to many protests and people sort of always sort of dismiss them and whatever else. You're not going to succeed with every protest, but
Yeah.
unless you have a protest, you don't know whether you are going to succeed. It's like saying, "Oh, why bother?" Yeah. Well, fine. We'll just sit around and let the world be fucked up. Okay, fine. If that's the way you want things, then screw you. I want to change the world for the better because some people sort of said, "Why do I want to change the world?" And I said, "Well, because I think the world's pretty fucked up. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're trans, the world is pretty fucked up, unless of course you're some Barbie girl, sorry, not sorry, Valley girl,
Rich
bimbo like
conservative
yeah,
person.
like Blair White, who has an awful lot of privilege."
Yeah.
You see, the right say that. I mean, in America, I think it's a bit different. As soon as there's the whiff of um, gun control, further gun control, then all the rednecks are out on the streets, brandishing their fucking AR-15s, aren't they? And that's supposedly, they're legitimately protesting their constitutional right. Well, so workers don't have any rights. Is that it? Is that it? They should just be fucking slaves. Fuck off.
Well, I mean, I think it's
Or the modern term, indentured servitude. I mean, most people are wage slaves, right? And that's the way the powers that be would like it because it means that they won't get too uppity because they'd fear losing their job and losing their house and whatever else.
well, losing the ability to eat
Yeah,
is
exactly.
definitely a factor, and that can be its own
Do not
turn.
mention that I'm here.
Oh, well, sorry, you've been in and out and dropping out. I just assumed that as soon as you got in, none of your statements would come through and you would drop out because the internet gremlins are after you. Perfect. Oh no, the internet gremlins get him?
He's
Yes.
he's still
Well,
there.
not quite. They got my sound for a little bit there.
Okay.
Did Arnie respond?
No.
All right. How do you spell her name?
Well, she's gone. Elliani. I messaged her on Twitter. And yeah. Anyways, what was I saying? Yeah, no, this this my brain good. I am good speak. Today, good episode of Good Speak. The internet gremlins have taken away Perfict, and I don't know if they'll ever return Perfict to us, or they'll constantly harass Perfict's internet connection. But yeah, basically, when it comes to a lot of this stuff, I think a lot of it feels overwhelming and a lot of it feels hard to do, and a lot of it, like for rental assistance, you have to talk to other people in your apartment building, or someone has to talk to other people in the apartment building, and no one wants to do that. It's sort of like looking for group in World of Warcraft. Everyone wants to look for groups. No one wants to actually make them.
Right.
Because it's more work and it's scarier, and most people don't know what they're doing. And so, but like, even if you don't know what you're doing something oftentimes is better, minus medical intervention. If you don't know what you're doing, please don't do random medical intervention. I think generally,
yeah,
it's sort of the thing where the first step is always the hardest.
well, I think some people say 100% of people whine, but only 20% of people will do something.
Yeah, but I mean, I get the impression that even framing it that way makes it seem like people, like 80% of people, don't want to do anything. A lot of times people feel powerless and they feel like anything that they do is just going to make things worse and couldn't possibly make things better. And that's not the case at all. Like, even every little bit, stuff isn't going to fix itself on its own, and every little bit makes a difference, because enough little bits and you have a flood of bits.
I mean, as I said, I protested against apartheid. We won on that one. I protested for gay marriage, got that.
Yeah.
There are things you do succeed at, and when you succeed, it feels good. I mean, getting Chelsea Manning released from prison, that was another one. Okay, she got reincarcerated, unfortunately, but she's out at the moment, and hopefully she'll stay out. Hopefully there'll be a change of president in November.
Yeah. Otherwise, things will get worse.
Talking of protesting, of course, Richard Spencer got punched by someone from someone from Antifa. It was on the day of Trump's inauguration, wasn't it? There's a 5-hour loop of it on YouTube. Yeah, you can watch it over and over again. It's great. Here's the thing. You can watch that, but you can't watch Richard Spencer on YouTube anymore. He's banned.
I mean that goes into a little bit of the that goes into some other things that we can talk about later. But I think with a lot of stuff, it's just
Even Blair White thought with Richard Spencer. I think she described him as a tranny chaser. It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't at all surprise me.
I have no idea. To be fair, nothing. Well, almost nothing surprises me anymore. It's hard to be surprised when you're constantly expecting the worst. Actually, no. That because I'm constantly expecting the worst. The things that surprise me are the things that in which good things actually happen.
If I went back to if I had a TARDIS and I could go back to 2010 and tell somebody, hey, in 2016 America's going to elect Donald Trump as president, they would have laughed at me.
Yeah.
You're right there.
I don't know where my earring back went. Sorry, my earring fell out.
This really is the stream, isn't it? But, yeah, can't hold the connection with Perfict, and you're losing your earring.
Look, it's important for me to get my earring back in so the hole doesn't close, so I can have.
Yep. I know. I've got earrings.
Oh my god, why is the earring not being nice to me? See, it doesn't want to get in. Actually, earrings hate this episode. Shit, I have the. I think I've got earring backs here on the desk. Definitely not with the. Also, completely unrelated. My mom made Star Wars related these things.
All right.
Which are adorable. But yeah, actually, I am extra glad that you were able to help out and come on because this would have been terrible if it was just me sitting here standing to myself. We might have had to actually fully cancel the episode.
Going every 30 seconds. Perfect, you there? Perfect, you there? Perfect, you there? Yeah, there might be some people who want to watch that. I don't know.
I think the I don't know. So I know you've talked with you've mentioned before about was it Labor Party stuff? There some sort of left wing that's not very trans supportive aspect in Britain.
Yeah, there's a problem in the Labour Party with transphobia.
Yeah, and
it's to do with the thing is that a lot of people, particularly on the radical left, have basically taken whatever radical feminists have said verboten, and of course radical feminists say hate trans. Some radical feminists, not all.
Yeah.
I might say that. I know some radical feminists who are trans supportive, but there is an element within radical feminism which has said trans people bad, and of course the radical left go along with that.
Yeah.
You have publications like the Morning Star, basically publishing shit you would see in a Ku Klux Klan newsletter about trans people.
Yeah, that's well, I mean, I say interesting. The weird upsetting thing about them not realizing that if everything they said were applied to racism, it would be racist as fuck. But they feel okay applying the same sets of reasonings to
Well,
trans people.
this is why anytime we had an instance of this on this show a few weeks ago, where if I come up against anybody who's belching turf bullshit, I will basically go, "Oh, you want us to go and sit at the back of the bus, do you? You don't want us sitting at the same lunch counter, yeah."
Yeah.
Basically, it's basically putting a mirror up to their bigotry, and oh dear, it doesn't make them feel comfortable.
Yeah, it's just.
I won't. I know some people say, why do I react the way I do towards turfs? And the reason being is because they are undermining my fundamental core. Yeah. Actually, I had a lefty friend say to me the other, "Oh, perfect. Are you with us?"
Uh, if he is, it'll take a little bit.
I had a lefty friend a few weeks ago because he sort of said he thinks the whole trans turf thing is about who gets to use the toilets. And I went, it's a bit more than that. But he sort of made the point. He said, look, you two are arguing over who gets to piss where and shit where, you know, where there are Nazis rioting on the streets. And I understood what he was saying. He was saying, with with what's going on in the world, you're arguing about stuff which is irrelevant. I get what he's saying, but the thing is, I saw something someone got from some far right group on Facebook, and it was a meme, and it was not directed just at trans people; it was directed at all the LGBTQ community, and it's basically first they come for the trans, then they'll go for the rest of the LGBT community. That's what people need to understand.
Well, I mean, it's more than that. It's a lot of the reasoning is the same.
I
There's
remember someone.
reasons why J.K. Rowling can, easily like posts from a person who is saying that you should listen to and befriend neo Nazis.
See, I won't. I will not. I will not do that. I mean, look, I don't understand why people don't get this. Yeah, I'm always fucking fence sitters do my head in, right? Look, do you really think I want to debate a neo-Nazi? I'm fucking Jewish. Does that ring any bells?
Yeah, it. I think it's one of those things where it's so people want to get people out of that mentality, and obviously if people sequester themselves into smaller and smaller spaces, that's less people that they can reach. But that being said, it's not necessarily it. I always get the impression that it's harder to go right than it is to go left, unless you're
It's
already
it,
right.
it's easier to hate than it is to love. Yeah.
Oh, I was saying that it's actually harder to hate than it is to love. A lot of stuff is conditioned in. They have to go through so much work just to get people. They have to dehumanize people just to get the hate to feel justified. They have to make it out like they're people are that people they want you to hate are like things. They're just a group.
The MO of the right is to sort of say to people, oh, this group is why they all say to particularly the white working classes, it's because of this group that, you're being held back. So they'll point to, that obviously the Nazis did it with the Jews. And now we're seeing far-right governments in Europe do it to the LGBTQ community. I'm not saying that this is going to lead to any Holocaust. I'm just saying that, it's worrying.
Well, yeah,
and the reason for this is to distract people from the fact that it is actually capitalism fucking their lives up.
Well, yes, yeah. I mean that definitely is a factor, but I mean, it's. I want to say it's more than that, because obviously a lot, but I mean, so right-wing individuals who wish to propagate conservative mentalities that fuck over the average person make up people to blame, and they try to do their best to talk the average person to accepting that blame as truth, because the right wing needs a lot of poor individuals who are marginalized only because of the system that we have. It's sort of like creating a problem and then making up a solution, creating a different enemy and making up a solution to how everything's going to get solved.
Yeah.
And that doesn't help. But I'm sure that it also doesn't help that billionaires are the ones that are often pushing these sorts of things.
Well, yes, as I said, they want to keep on making money. That's, but, they became billionaires because of the capitalist system, and they want to keep the capitalist system going. I also think that for people lower down the pecking order, what the problem is, when the Berlin Wall came down and we saw the end of communism, it was like the end of history, right? And it was like, well, capitalism won, so therefore capitalism, there can't be any other system, than capitalism, that's people can't imagine anything else other than the capitalist system they live in. And when people offer alternatives, they get smeared as communists or whatever else by those who have their interest is to keep the capitalist system going. There are other systems which could work. But they're not going to get a fair hearing. They never,
Yeah.
Okay, I've done everything I know how to.
Hopefully you are not still cursed. Hopefully.
Don't know how much of the conversation you managed to get here, Perfict.
Much of it. I've been following it on YouTube.
Oh, good.
All right, so YouTube was working, but Zoom wasn't.
Right.
That's weird.
Yeah, because a lot of the reasoning behind using Zoom was because of the decreased usage of bandwidth.
Exactly.
And
It
yeah,
doesn't use as much bandwidth as YouTube. Watching a video on YouTube does.
Anyways, in other news, I was going to say Perfict. I mentioned this off air. I wanted to talk about it because I thought it was hilarious. The Iron Rand Institute have had some sort of government of. They actually applied for a government bailout.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I find that really funny.
I had heard that. I haven't caught it through any reputable news source, but I've heard that.
Yeah, it was on. I got it through Secular Talk on YouTube. I just find it really funny. Sorry.
yeah.
There might be people not watching this who don't know who Iron Rand is. You're probably better off not knowing who she is.
I heard her books are terrible.
They fucking are.
They'll throw you a new perspective. You go, oh, a completely different way of looking at the world. But it's
well, it's all capitalists are the most oppressed people in the world.
Yeah, no, you can't even make that narrative with most of the world being capitalists.
I'll never forget Aria. The thing is, I said to Aria, I said, look, even if the thing is, I said, look, they're badly written books. That's the first problem. Never mind about any philosophical bullshit that Ayn Rand wanted to purport. They're just badly written books. And she went, oh, that's your opinion. I go, that's not just my opinion. Most people think that. Dry as anything.
I have.
Well,
yeah. Go on.
As far as understanding the philosophy goes, it's if you're aware of enlightened self-interest
Yes.
as being the universal motivator.
Yes.
And that their theory is just take out the enlightenment part.
Yeah.
Self-interest is unenlightened self-interest particular.
Yeah, it's the thing is obviously they get this from Adam Smith, the invisible hand of it was called that one's self-interest could be another's interest. I get all that, right? But that doesn't always work. And as it goes, Adam Smith did actually support state education. That's something you don't hear from libertarians.
Well, I mean, part of the thing is Adam Smith Adam Smith was against monopolies. Adam Smith said that
Adam Smith invented the graph. Did you know that?
No, I mean, I've read I've read a couple chapters of Adam Smith book. I think the breakdown into the nature of money was relatively interesting, but there's the major problem I have with any sort of system in which you need capitalism doesn't work well if you need the aspects of it to survive. Capitalism, you could make arguments about capitalism working fine for stuff that's not that's not needed. It's just more wants.
Capitalism does not work in favor of those on the margins of society. I can tell you that.
Well, yeah. I can tell you that too.
Well, I mean, I'll give you an example. Essentially, those who produce stuff, they want a uniformed or a relatively uniformed consumer because it's easy to market shit to them, It's easy to sell stuff to them. They don't want people to be different. It's not like I don't know if anyone's ever said this to you, but some people sort of say, "Oh, you're only trying to get attention." fuck off.
Yeah, like, no, that's
Oh well,
not.
yeah, the non-uniform consumer there as a trans person, I get that connection. The interestingly enough, did you know that McDonald's has changed the shape of potatoes?
No.
McDonald's buys so many potatoes, and they insist on buying only a given size and shape of potato that people want to sell to McDonald's, and therefore they have been trying to grow potatoes of that size and shape, and therefore they've changed the shape of potatoes.
Mm.
Well, they've changed the shape of the potatoes that they produce.
But not just that they buy, everybody produces. Yeah, everybody produces potatoes trying for that grade.
And I would imagine
And
they've
so
also
the potatoes in the store have all changed.
That's so weird.
and I would imagine they've also changed breeding techniques for cattle and the cattle themselves.
Well, I don't know.
So
what
it's
to
not
say.
just uniform consumers; it's also uniform products. They want uniformity.
Yeah, I mean,
all the way
I'm a bit of a hypocrite here, right? I'm going to admit it. You know, you got to admit that when you're a hypocrite. So if I'm in London, right,
It would be hypocritical not to.
What?
Not
Be
to
in
admit
London.
it.
Yeah.
No, not to admit that you were a hypocrite when you were a hypocrite.
So when I'm in London, I will go to usually I will go to if I'm just looking for a quick bite to eat or a coffee, I will go to a chain restaurant. Why? Because I know how much it's going to cost. The trouble is, and this is wrong. Obviously, the big companies can have uniform prices because they're big, whereas the independents, well, they're going to have to pay. They're getting squeezed on products and land rent and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll give you an example. In Leicester Square, there's a Burger King. Funny enough, which is right in the centre of London. There's a Burger King and there's a sandwich bar next to it, right? Now, the sandwich bar will probably charge you about £7 for a sandwich. You can get a Whopper for, I don't know, £3 or £4.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Although my conversion of currency is not the best in terms of mental currency conversion, especially because the British pound did significantly better for a long time compared to the American dollar.
Since Brexit, it's been tanking.
Yeah, so it's harder to convert the money and get a good idea.
I'll never forget when Brexit happened and all the Brexit, because it was basically pointed out the pound losing its value, and they were going, oh well, it'd be good for exporting. Yeah, well, what does this country fucking export? Not a lot these days.
Yeah, it used to export the BBC.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's still one of the. Okay, we're still in the top 10 of world exporters, but the thing is, this country has what's called a consumer-led economy. In other words, you need people on the high street to spend shit, right? If they're so that means having to import stuff, right? Importing is more expensive under when the pound is weak, right? And if people have less, the pound is worth less in people's pocket, they're not going to be able to buy as much. Therefore, you're going to have problems. Now, and of course now we've got, an even bigger problem with COVID-19 wrecking the economy.
Yeah. I mean, COVID is its own. Well, pandemics are natural disasters.
Well, yeah.
But like, natural disasters are bound to happen eventually.
Unfortunately,
I heard somebody again saying, who could have thought that we would be in 2020 in a pandemic. And I was like, really? Because I have heard people warning that this was going to happen for several decades and saying, warning, it's not if, it's when. It's going to happen. And we need to be prepared for it. This is coming. It's just a matter of the odds showing up.
Yeah.
But of course, it's none of our faults. It's just that you see, the racism is now going to be directed at the Chinese. You know, it's all China's fault. That's, you know, what everyone's going to say now.
Well, I
Not our
mean,
fault.
some have been saying that, yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, there's some who've been saying things like that make, yeah. I think China gets an extra special helping of because of how they handled it at the beginning. Yes.
Well,
there's plenty of blame to go around. Blame's like love. No matter how you spread it around, there's always more.
Well, you have people like Alex Jones saying, "Oh, you know, COVID-19 was formulated in a Chinese military laboratory." You know, well, that's the plot from a BBC show called Survivors. So not original, Alex, mate.
Wait.
But
wait. Oh shit! Was that the one with the enhanced version of the flu?
Yeah, there's two different versions. There was a version in the 1970s. Some of episodes you can see on YouTube, actually. Don't think they should be up there, but they are. And there was a version made about 10 years ago, which is shit.
Maybe I'm thinking of a different thing. Or wait,
No,
was
no.
it 10 years ago? I can't remember when anything I've seen is, apparently.
Look, I'm not. Look, I'm not. You know, no one knows where this. You know, we're told it originated in some wet market in Wuhan. Who fucking knows? Look, shit happens. Okay, deal with it.
Well, I mean,
Donald Trump and Boris Johnson are very good at passing the buck.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. A lot of the concerns that my parents had about healthcare being still capitalistic or whatever when I was a kid, and they explained it very well. It's the same reason that we made the fire department. You don't put fires out of poor people's houses. Rich people's houses will burn. If you don't stop poor people from getting sick, rich people will get sick too. Like, you can't control the spread of disease. It'll just happen. I mean, you can't completely control the spread of disease. It's just going to happen, and that's why it's important to, not wipe out thousands of people.
The United States is the only country, westernized country, where people go bankrupt because they can't pay their medical bills.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're like me and managed to get. Well, I mean, to be fair, mine wasn't. Mine had another person involved, so that's the only reason that I could get paid for. If I had just gotten sick, then I would have been fucked.
You know, it's like, it's like, oh, you nearly died of pneumonia. Well, here's the medical bill. I mean, fuck's sake.
Yeah.
You know, and you get fucking people like Aria.
What, are you talking about the problems with not wearing a mask?
No, Aria's a libertarian, and libertarians don't support universal healthcare, do they? Well, actually, tell a lie. They'll probably say something like, well, we do support it. If the group of people want to have it, then they should have it, but we don't want it.
Well, I think based on Arya's version, the things that the thing I sometimes when Ari describes things, I really wanted to have a conversation. I wanted to try to figure out what puts her version of libertarianism, which isn't necessarily the same version of libertarianism that is touted by some people. I want to figure out what the separation between that and like mutualism was, because she seems to she has mentioned stuff before about wanting people to get help if they're, but just didn't want government control over it. But yeah, it's just, I don't know.
I know there's people who say that there should be ways for people who are doing well to contribute to paying for people who are not doing well voluntarily, and that the amount of help that people get is based on the voluntary resource and then I'm like, who administers that resource? Who do you envision administering that? There should be some way of administering that resource, they're saying, and you go, what would you call the entity that administers that resource? What would they be called? They're going to be a government facility. They're going to be a social collective. They keep using these words to try and get around it, but it's government. There's someone who's going to govern that facility.
No,
well, unless it's side governing things. I mean, part of the thing is
what they want is everything to be voluntary. So you could buy into a universal healthcare system, but it'd be your choice to do so, right? But they can't force other people to pay for it. Do you see what I'm saying? It's all about free choice, right? Now, personally, I don't think it would work. And they want everything to be provided by the market. So, and that doesn't necessarily mean capitalism, I'd add, to be fair to them. But
yes, which you see when you don't get me into arguing with libertarians. Just seriously, because what they're saying is, I'm entitled. I'm entitled to be a member of the society. It's about my entitlement. I'm entitled to be a member of the society, whether I want to pay for it or not.
Unrelated to this, one of the viewers on my Twitch, at the very least, was wondering, Sophia, do you know much about Scotland's handling of COVID-19? I know you're from England.
Okay, to explain, in the UK, powers are devolved in Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. So they have their own parliaments and executives. Okay, and in Scotland, they have made face masks mandatory in public. They also, their lockdown was stricter, I think. I can't quite remember in some respects. Basically, over the last week, I think there have been no new cases of COVID in Scotland.
Oh, that's actually pretty impressive, and I can't remember if I heard. I think face masks do a world of difference. I think that in general, because I
think Perfict knows more about this. I think it's more about face masks protect other people from getting your germs.
When you breathe in a face mask, if let's say somebody was walking along without a face mask, and their lungs are now, the cells in their lungs have been taken over by virus, and the virus has turned those cells into little virus manufacturing facilities. That's what it does. It uses your cells to reproduce. It can't reproduce on its own.
Yeah.
It has to use your cells, and it's using your lung cells. So when you breathe out, you're breathing out a lot of virus, these little virus cells. They aren't really cells, but these little viruses.
Yeah.
And that you're breathing them out, and they're hanging around in the air, and somebody else can breathe them in. If you're wearing a mask and you walk into that cloud, it will remove. It lowers the chance of you breathing it in by a small amount, 8%, 15%. Studies vary, but it's not by much. It doesn't help you a whole lot. Most of the masks that people would wear don't filter for that, won't filter for that. But if when they breathe it in and now they've got it and their lungs are being turned into a factory, when they breathe out, the mask catches the moisture, and therefore the moisture doesn't leave and exit into the air with the virus in it. And so that's what the mask catches. You don't breathe out and make a gas cloud for the next person to walk into. You are not a vector. You are not another transmission point now chuffing around spreading the virus.
Yeah, that makes sense. And certainly the what was it earlier in terms of the importance of face masks? If I can't remember if I heard this right, about Japan having relatively low cases because of them, taking care and wearing face masks.
There's
South Korea did, I know that, the face mask thing, and it makes a huge difference apparently. And South Korea has been on this since the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, what I'm scared of is a second wave come the autumn. Sorry, I meant fall.
Autumn, fall. It's all the same.
As I understand it, in South Korea, when somebody is diagnosed with COVID, they do an interview with them, find out where they've been, and then they go on the radio and they just say where that person has been, and if you were there at this time.
Yeah.
Well,
you should get tested.
South Korea had a track and trace app. Now, the British government tried to copy this and made a complete fucking shambles of it.
Yeah. I also heard yeah, apparently I'm hearing counter reports about Japan handling it terribly. So it's possible I was racist and just lumping East Asian countries together and forgetting which one was the actual
hero in this situation.
Yeah. That I heard that there were a lot of people tested in Scotland as well. I'm seeing 300,858.
Yeah, I think the testing in Scotland was better. Also, the Scots were a lot more honest about their figures. When the UK government was taking numbers of people who had died or who had been infected, they weren't including figures from care homes, only those in hospital. The Scottish government were doing that straight away. They were doing it from not just in hospitals. I mean, the official figure for the UK is 44,000. Last time I looked, it might be over 45,000 now, but it's estimated that possibly as much as 65,000 have died. Now that's 1 in 1,000. One person in every 1,000 people in this country. So even if you've not known someone who's died of COVID, you might know someone who had a relative who did.
Yeah, I mean that was kind of
I mean, one thing
the
I
case for me, I've heard of people. I've heard of people dying, just not anyone I directly know.
I mean, I kept hearing from like libertarians in New Hampshire that, well, we don't know anyone who's had it or died of it. Yeah, well, New Hampshire's a backwater. It's not exactly a hub, is it?
Well,
All right, it's
and
relatively
also
close
you
to.
don't know who has had it necessarily.
Yeah, well, I am fed up with those people who are, I think I heard it last October. Well, that's funny because the first case wasn't reported until the end of November.
Yeah. No, obviously that.
I mean, the thing is that all the pain we're going through at the moment, come a couple of years when there's a vaccine, it's been like, oh, you got COVID? Oh, well, never mind. Just have this jab. Yeah. Of course, the other thing is, I mean, there is a lot of work going into a vaccine, obviously, but already you're hearing from not just the far right. It's not just Alex Jones. This, it's also people in the Green Party, the anti-vaxxers. They're already doing it. Yeah.
Don't get me started next.
Oh, how it's going to be terrible for. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And oh my, so many of the crazy stuff.
You see, the thing is, I'm politically homeless at the moment, right? Because Keir Starmer sacked Rebecca Long. Basically, he sacked Rebecca Long Bailey, um, who was one of the front bench spokespeople, because supposedly she was spreading anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. She wasn't. She posted a link to an interview with Maxine Peake, who's an actress who's known for her left-wing views, and she had said that the neck hold used on George Floyd had been a tactic taught to U.S. police by the Israeli Defense Force. Now, that's not strictly correct, but it's not as if the Israeli Defense Forces haven't been holding seminars and teaching tactics to U.S. police, because they have been, right? Now he sacked her. He sacked her for that because she refused to remove that tweet. And so it's kind of like the other reason. Sorry, I should try. So late here. Rebecca Long Bailey was like one of the last sort of prominent socialists involved with the Labour leadership. So it was a way. He was basically looking for an excuse to get rid of her, essentially, and this came along. So I'm not voting for Labour. If it's saying fuck off to socialists, because that's the way I'm inclined. You have. I'm never going to vote Tory. The Liberal Democrats, well, they say one thing, do another. So the most obvious choice is the Green Party, but I can't vote Green because they're populated with hippie anti-vaxxers. And there is this. Yeah. Go on.
Oh, is that more of a UK-US thing, or?
Oh yeah, there's anti-vaxxers in the Green Party here.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, everyone remembers Jill Stein getting her knickers in a bind about vaccines 4 years ago.
Yeah.
But there was also that thing about how Wi-Fi and 5G might be dangerous, and it was like, is she a friend of David Icke's? Mind you, funny enough, this is actually true. David Icke was actually a member of the Green Party in this country.
I don't remember who David Icke is.
Well, maybe that's a good thing.
Probably. I mean,
he's an anti-Semitic conspiracy theorist dressed up as someone who's New Age. Yeah.
Gotcha. One of those sorts of things.
It did make me laugh when they were trialing the track and trace app. They were trailing it in this place called the Isle of Wight, and David Icke lives in the Isle of Wight. I did laugh. I just thought that's ironic. I mean, he was saying that he's been. Oh no, you don't know who he is. Sorry. He got banned from YouTube because he kept pushing this conspiracy that it's the rollout of 5G which is causing COVID-19.
Oh, I thought for a
Oh my
second.
God, I'd heard that. That's the most hysterical conspiracy thing.
Well,
That's just my little guilty pleasure is listening
I
to the absurd.
I remember at the time, right, thinking that it would be a more credible conspiracy theory to say that, the reason that there's a lockdown is because there's going to be an alien invasion than to say that 5G, the rollout of 5G is causing COVID-19.
Oh,
Not going to be. There is one. It's going on right now. There's an alien invasion going on, and they're just convincing everybody to stay home. They're moving through the streets as we speak. Yeah, that's more convincing.
I was just gonna say I was when you were talking about 5G causing things, because just being trans gets you labeled in all sorts of weird conspiracies. I had assumed that 5G was causing people to become trans. I'm sure there's someone who probably believes that.
Probably. I don't know. Ask Blair White.
I don't want to. I genuinely don't want to talk to Blair White.
No. As I said, bimbo on the outside, bigot on the inside.
The idea is that the 5G transmission stations are bombarding you and they are causing your cells to release the COVID virus because viruses live in your cells and are just released when they are by a trigger. And that's what makes you sick, is when your cells release viruses that are trapped in them.
I mean,
they might as well just throw Satans in there. Just, it's evil spirits that live within you, and it releases them.
Well, I was going to assume that I was going to say that actually that there is an aspect of that conspiracy theory which would make sense if they were talking about prions, not viruses, because prions are mutated proteins that replicate using by changing other proteins to that protein.
Do you remember when everybody used to go on about how cell phones cause brain cancer?
Yeah, I think they.
Yeah, but now everybody has brain cancer and doesn't care.
Yeah, I think they even spread to some degree on the movie Thank You for Smoking or whatever.
Yeah, that's actually a very funny film.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a good film. I just yeah.
Yeah, I like the bit where he has to go to the equivalent to the Marlboro Man to pay him off. But he goes, I'm not taking your fucking money. And he goes, well, what you could do is you could, give this money to charity. What? How much of it? Well, it's up to you. Well, I need some money for, you have to see the scene for yourself, but it's very funny.
Oh yeah, no, that the classic thing of, oh no, definitely I won't take that money, but if you're giving it to charity, well, I suppose I could have some of it. if you just take a few steps, everything is gonna be fine. There's definitely not a political barrier that slowly gets shifted by taking a few steps and changing where what you see as center is.
I mean, the thing is, the tobacco industry, I'll know if everyone remembers that clip where there was the senatorial hearings. Tobacco's not addictive. Tobacco's not addictive. I was a smoker. Of course I knew it was fucking addictive. Any smoker knew it was addictive.
Yeah, I mean...
But by the way, Perfict, did you know that Ayn Rand thought the link between smoking and cancer was a conspiracy theory?
Oh, no. Well, not surprised, but...
No, I just know that.
No, that's...
Oh, she's not a hypocrite. I mean, she claims Social Security to pay her hospital bills. Fucking hell. I'm sorry, just libertarians just do my head in.
Well, I mean, there are certain aspects that are just fundamentally wrong, and we've shown that historically they're wrong. We created agencies because we needed to create those agencies. Like we created the FDA to stop makeup from scarring up and causing horrific injuries to
yeah.
people.
I mean, look. I am certainly someone who believes in what's as Isaiah. I don't know how you two are familiar with Isaiah Berlin's twin concepts of liberty. But I do accept generally negative liberty, which is you can do shit until the government says you don't, right? And I think that's perfectly fine. I mean, but sometimes there does need to be regulation. I mean, they used to put fucking lead in sweets in this country.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
yeah, back in the Victorian era.
Yeah.
And that's why you need regulation to stop that sort of shit happening.
Lead has a very pleasant, sweet taste.
Oh, that's
I mean, do I think that the left go too far? Yeah, sure. I think that the last Labour government were sort of, they wanted to sort of get this. So in garages, they used to sell these king size Mars bars, right?
okay.
Okay, which were like bigger than average Mars bars. You get Mars bars in the States, you do, don't you?
Yeah.
you
I
Did you
forgot
know
what
that
they were, but
Mars
yeah.
bars have held a since like 1937, they have held a constant value to the pound.
I know that.
Just one of those weird things.
that that is
I bet
really
you're really
weird.
good at Trivial Pursuit. Anyways, so they had these king size Mars bars in garages and extra large um, bags of crisps, right? And the government said, right, okay, you can't do that anymore. And it's like, why? Because they were trying to tackle supposedly the obesity epidemic, right?
Oh.
I'm not denying that there isn't a problem with people being overweight, but here's what happened. So they banned them. Well, changed the regulations. So now you get Mars Duos, which are like two small Mars bars in a packet. I mean, it's like, well, that was like, why did you do that? It wasn't needed. That's, people will find a way around, this
Well,
sort of stuff.
yeah, but I mean, obviously,
I think when someone's life is immediately in danger, like eating lead, yes, that's when the government needs to step in. I have no
yeah,
problem with that. Yeah, sure. And I know what libertarians say about drink driving. Well, if a person can get A to B under the influence, what's the problem? Well, because they might, the chances are they're not. And it's drink driving is one of the most incredibly selfish things you can do because you're not
yeah,
endangering yourself, you're endangering everyone else on the road.
yeah.
The thing we New York City limited, at least for a short time, the size of drinks that people could have, because they were trying to say no more selling a 32-ounce soda with your fries and a hamburger. That we're tired of this stuff, and they weren't addressing what really is the real dietary problem there, which is saying they could say no selling sodas in New York City that are sweetened with corn syrup.
Yeah, that's actually what the British government have done.
Okay, because it's the corn syrup thing. It's the fructose.
Yeah.
It has a trigger in it which keeps you from
feeling
full and sated. Yes. Okay, it's a trick that nature plays on you so that you'll jam as many berries down your throat as you can and fatten yourself up for the long cold winter like a bear.
Yeah.
Okay, and it keeps you from being full, so you'll go back and order another burger. And so that is a weird trick to play on people. No more selling sodas that are doing that. But they didn't make that rule. They made this other rule, which is silly.
In this country, the government said they would start taxing sugary drinks. So all the manufacturers now, everything is basically sugar free. So you got things like Coke Zero. You can still get Coke, but it's a lot more
Well,
expensive.
the thing is that people would sell instead of they'd sell sugar Coke. They'd say, okay, sweetened with sugar. They'd sweeten it with sucrose instead of fructose.
Yeah, I know about the fructose thing. And you got the Nixon administration to blame for that one.
Um, yeah, I am busy. I am in this weird position where I have been dieting and exercising successfully, and I'm just like, there's a part of me that's all instinctually sugar bad, real sugar bad.
Well, there was a program here where two twins, and they're both doctors, and they put one of them lives here, and one of them lives in New York, and they put them on. One of them went on a high fat diet for a month, and the other one went on a high sugar diet for a month, right? And to see what the effects would be. Now, the guy went on the high fat diet, put on God knows how much fucking weight, and was becoming borderline diabetic. But weirdly, the guy who was on the high sugar diet actually lost weight. I could have told them that already because you burn up pure sugar, you burn up far easier than you do with fat. I mean, I am diabetic, so I know that, for instance, stuff which your body takes longer to break down, such as rice and potatoes, sort of those carbohydrates are far better for you than, say, pastry. They're
Yeah,
fattier.
well, I mean, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think about the carbohydrates a bit more than
you see.
the
Everyone
fats.
seems to think if you've got diabetes, you avoid sugar. No, I put sugar in my coffee.
Part of that is the carbohydrates is the surface area available on them. So if you take puffed rice and you eat that, that's exploded rice, and it has a nearly infinite surface area, and you'd be better off just eating raw sugar as a diabetic.
All right.
So it's rice better. You understand that it's partly the how you eat it.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. No. There's like a million foods that are for us that you have to watch out for and try to get. It's not simply just sugar. If you are on diabetes, or if you are on diabetes, wow, I brain good. No, if you have diabetes, my mom has it.
I'm talking about stuff. I'm not talking about deep fried fucking fries here. I'm talking about jacket potatoes and whole grain rice.
Yeah.
And pasta is another good one. That's fine.
Well, part of the thing is that also when you're saying pastry, you're talking about ground and therefore exploded, basically wheat.
Yeah.
You're talking about that's been ground and then made fluffy, so it has as much surface area as possible and will be hitting your system as fast and as hard as possible.
Yeah.
I just know.
Excuse me.
That for whatever reason, counting calories, eating protein, making sure to eat enough protein, and exercising helps for me.
I hope you're also eating a lot of fiber. We don't want you getting bunged up.
Yeah, I mean, I try to make sure to eat fiber too. I mean, I want to make sure to eat vegetables as well, not like simply just protein. I'm not gonna like fucking all protein diet or some dumb shit like that. Like that's horrible for you.
So you haven't been listening to Jordan B. Peterson, who apparently never plans on pooping again.
Yeah, no. I mean like chicken on pizza with vegetables on like thin crust pizza with vegetables that whatever. I found like the lowest calorie pizza ever, so like, don't judge me. It tastes good, and I like cheese and chicken and whatnot. But I also like lentil soup. Well, essentially German style lentil soup.
During the last little stretch here, I'd like to return to Riot and
Oh
that
yes,
sort of
Yeah.
Riot and organizing.
Yeah. She's gonna have a go at me after this. You know, for changing. I didn't change the subject. Can I just?
Well,
say-
no. I am not. I guarantee you, I'm not going to have a go at you after this. Because I am streaming World of Warcraft Classic right after this, and I'm dealing with a raid, so I can't. No, no. This is like this episode. I've been very much. I don't care with this episode. This episode's been such a mess of like internet problems and just stuff in terms of making sure to get a guest host and the guests thing. And I'm already changing the topic away. We were talking about rights and organizing.
that Riot is a fundamental part of our political structure. That's just a recourse that's very rarely accessed. And that when people say that things like peaceful protest is important and that's the better way to go and all that sort of thing, and you go, yes, but when Gandhi walked to the sea to gather salt for himself, okay, which was against the rules, it was against taxation, the threat was riot. If they arrested him, the people would riot.
Yeah.
There was a threat of violence. His actions carried the threat of violence. I'm going to do this, and if you try and stop me, there will be violence. I won't deliver the violence, but it will be delivered to you. And that it carried the threat of violence. That's what it was about. It was peaceful protest that carried the threat of violence. And that it carried specifically the threat of riot. And it was the desire to not have riots that made them not arrest him and actually keep people back who were trying to harass him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those are all, I mean, it's important, and it's an important part of, and the people who are saying things about it not being fair and that, look, they're destroying their own community, that's not fair. And, you know, what did that business do that made it appropriate to get their windows broken and that sort of thing? And you're like, that isn't about what Riot is about. It's about costing society as a whole. And it costs them. It's an economic threat. And that's part of what it's supposed to be about. And it's not about the fair apportionment of blame. That's not what it's about. And trying to make it about that is ridiculous. It's like trying to make war. War is an inevitable thing that can happen. Nobody likes it. It's not supposed to be, but it's part of our society. It's part of what can go on. There's war and the threat of war. And war isn't about the fair apportionment of blame.
Yeah. I think that riots also they're an expression of the emotion and an expression of the pain that's been caused. Like there's a reason why sometimes people don't pay as much attention to peaceful protests.
Yeah. And I think that peaceful protests are important too. I think that people going out and protesting, the people who are going out and protesting, that's terribly important. And everybody should try and lend a hand. Do a day of protesting if you can.
Yeah. And
organizing a protest is no mean feat.
Yeah. That's why there are certain organizations that are trying to organize certain organizations, but whatever. There are groups that are trying to set up organization. basically, wow, I can't remember names of groups. I know there's a group here in Minnesota, or at the very least has aspects in Minnesota for abolishing the ICE. A lot of Jewish people here in Minnesota have been protesting the ICE. Some of
The
whom
ICE being
the international the place that's imprisoning immigrants.
yeah. I'm
Hispanic
just wondering
immigrants.
if you knew what it stands for.
Oh fuck! I can't remember what the ICE stands for.
Okay,
I just remember it as the
I'm
ICE.
stuck too.
Uh, most people have heard of it, but yeah, there have been protests for a while with regards to that, and some violence on the part of the ICE, which, much like a lot of police violence, has been consequenceless, which, it is awful. And people are still protesting the police today. It's not like it's stopped, despite how little it's been talked about recently.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still very much aware of it. I'm very much aware of the riot. The remnants of certain aspects of the rioting is still visible here in Minnesota. Definitely, like, the places with windows still boarded up. There are places that are still closed because of all this. Like, it was a big impact. There's a reason why stuff got done.
But I'm still bothered by my news, because on the news there were people constantly saying, but they're destroying their own communities. How does that make sense? And there was nobody saying, what are you talking about? Didn't they teach social studies when you were in middle school? What is the problem?
Well, and the thing is, a lot of it doesn't help that a lot of corporations support various things that are harmful to the communities anyway, so it's hard to give a fuck about them anyway with regards to all this. I can't remember which was the worst offender, but yeah, no, yeah, protests need to continue, and it's one of those things where even a little bit helps, which I've mentioned earlier in this episode. I've got on repeat. It shows my lack of knowledge, which I need to get more knowledge. I need to learn more with relation to organizing, with relation to getting people together, with relation to trying, because there are people who've made unions or at the very least have tried to, and it's not a simple task. And with corporations as they are here in America, like, it's an especially difficult task, because most of the people don't want to get fired and replaced. Yeah. Shit, did I get disconnected? Sorry,
No.
it just got really quiet, and I started like freaking out, and because I was just like, wait a minute. Because there's at least one or two times that I have gotten where because of me getting disconnected, everyone else froze, and so I was just like, wait a minute. I can't.
Immigration and Customs Enforcement. That's what they're now called.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the department that the Homeland Security has mentioned about all the civil rights abuses and um
Yes, keeping children in dog kennels.
yeah, there is a lot of things, not just that, rotten food, um uh there are some other torturous aspects in terms of, space. Obviously there's stuff about selling children into uh words, the bad
Adopting
thing,
them out.
trafficking
Oh well, I
children.
don't know about that, but yeah, what counts as yeah.
Well, let's just put it this way. Uh, there are large numbers of missing immigrant children
Yes,
that they
and
can't.
I love.
I hate to do this to you, but I'm gonna have to go. I can barely
Okay.
keep my eyes open.
Okay. Well,
I need to sleep.
okay.
Sorry.
Well, we'll continue up, and there's not a lot. There's not too much more time. If there's anything you're working on that you would like to promote, Sophia,
No, just follow me on Twitter at Sophia Botha 74.
yeah,
All right, take care.
yep,
All
you
right,
too.
cheers. Bye.
Bye. Okay, it's just us.
Okay, I'll try not to blink out.
Well,
That would
yeah.
be just the horror story here.
Well, I mean, admittedly, I will essentially be only half paying attention as I set up for raid while we talk. I definitely
Okay, and
Don't
I can
worry.
rant about how I've said my piece about the I don't understand the news thing. It bothers me. It bothers me because it is such an obvious thing. I don't understand how they could not be bringing it up as part of the news thing. How the people who are expecting to be talking about this today, I mean, they know that that's what's going to be on the news and what's going to be talked about, and they aren't prepared to be talking about how riot is part of society and always has been, and it was been recognized since the Roman times as part of the recourse of the working classes.
Yeah.
And that you aren't there to talk about that you're acting like it's a mystery, and that somehow fairness plays a role in it, and you're like, you go, this is all just silly, and yet they're selling that to the populace, to people.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't help that various news corporations are based more around financial incentive and what's best for the corporation as opposed to what's best for the people. Because news corporations are supposed to be about, people calling people out, like,
Yeah, I blame two-headed ducks.
two-headed ducks?
Yep, that's how the news found out that they could do a story about two-headed ducks, and it actually brought in viewers, and that made the news turn around into trying to do that. And it used to be that the news was part of public service. It's part of what a show, a network did, news, or your local news coverage, no local news station did news, in order to get you to watch, so that then you'd tune in for whatever came after it at 8 o'clock,
Yeah.
and you'd come watch it. But that meant they had to do good news, and that was the only thing they could do. And it lost money because you couldn't sell ad space on news. It sold for a song. Nobody wanted it. People bought it a little bit, but it doesn't really pay to advertise on the news, because nobody wants to, you watch something, a horrible flood, famine, and there you are now trying to sell them a Toyota. That doesn't work. Okay.
No, I can see why not. Although, that goes into the more complicated thing of who should be doing the news.
Yeah, and then you get but then if I find out that these human interest and things like that, and that two-headed ducks actually brings in viewers, and now I can sell ad space, and now it's a commercially viable thing that also brings people in to watch whatever comes on at 8 o'clock.
Yeah. But like it's so do you think there should be like a government news source or
That's sort of self-defeating, because the news source is supposed to be a fifth branch. It's supposed to be the part of what sets the public agenda is the news.
well, yeah, and the other problem is like if it gets the because of the way the government's run currently, sorry,
It's like having it's who will watch the watchers, that they're supposed to be the antithesis of the government. It's supposed to be they work against the CIA and the FBI and the MOUSE, that all the what are they called, acronym all the acronym organizations
yeah.
are then, they work to keep things secret, and the news works to make them public. And that way the things that really need to be kept secret will be kept secret, and the things that really need to be made public will be made public. That's the idea. Two fighting groups that are in conflict. That's how everything is set up in America, is we just put groups in conflict and make them jealous of their powers, and they fight each other, and we get a balance.
Yeah, although I mean, yeah, there are various things that can get imbalanced due to motivation. So like if they disagree on, if two groups disagree on one thing, but they both agree on something like I want money, then they can potentially work together. If you have them supposed to be watching each other, then that doesn't work.
Or if I, as a third party, can say, I have enough money that both of you would like to be my friend.
Yeah, and it's part of the problem with. So, how should I put this? America wasn't set up with all the knowledge about how to prevent corruption already in it when it was started. A lot of it started from, British colonies, or well, I mean, people copying the British. So, like,
yeah, well, games theory really didn't exist.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just so it's one of those things where we know that the more things are hidden, the easier it is to corrupt.
All that is evil shuns the light.
Yeah, and a lot with the there's a lot of secrets that are necessary. There are secrets that we're told constantly are necessary to keep us safe, but we probably don't need anywhere near as many secrets as are going on.
Well, yeah, that like I said, but the whole point is, the idea is that what really needs to be outed will actually be outed. What really needs to be kept secret will probably be kept secret. And then there's a whole lot of stuff in the middle where some of it will come out and some of it won't. And some of it probably should have come out, but it didn't really need to, so it didn't. And there's a lot of stuff that didn't need to come out, but they brought it out anyway because it was there and available. So that's a lot of hodgepodge. There's most of the middle ground.
Yeah.
Right. But I think that my big stress is that it's important to protest. Protest is how you shape and set the government's awareness of the public agenda. You let them know what your agenda is, and then that allows them to respond to your agenda. That's what protest is about. It's about saying, I don't think the news is reflecting my agenda. I want to tell you what my agenda is personally. Here's a protest to let you know.
Yeah, and to some degree they feel the need to listen because they don't want like a revolution.
They don't want a riot. Yeah.
Well, they don't want a riot or a revolution, I should say. Because both, or a violent revolution. Well, they probably don't want a revolution, even if it's non-violent either.
Yeah, and riot is about saying, we're just going to cost people, and the people who count, the people who are setting the government programs, the people who are doing, we're costing money. The fact is that Los Angeles has not yet recovered economically from the Rodney King riots.
Yeah.
And these new riots are just setting them back further. The riots are very costly. Economically, they cost a lot.
Yeah.
And that it's saying you have messed up very badly. And it's somebody who's willing to cut off their nose to spite their face. They're saying, we're going to make you pay attention, even if it hurts us too.
Yeah. And, that also happens when you're cornered. Now, that being said, I do need to end this show soon, because I need to get to raid soon. So, you still in the Rumpus Room, Perfict?
The Rumpus Room is my primary thing. That's a Discord server. Links would be in the description. And this, I do this.
Yeah. And I am
everywhere.
I am everywhere as Ozma in the Dark. That being said, I am trying to get more content for my YouTube channel. I probably need to talk with people more. I probably need to stream more. Well, I'm streaming raids on Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. Central. Or 10 p.m. Eastern. I think that's right. Anyways, and I try to stream D&D sometimes on Saturdays. This has just been... My life's a mess, so everything's been slowed down. So, it was nice chatting.
Do you ever put those streams up on YouTube, or do you just do them on the Twitch?
So, in terms of the World of Warcraft streams, I do them on Twitch because when it comes to several hour streams, it just seems... it just doesn't mesh well with my style. That being said, ideally I should be putting clips of the streams, like best clips of the streams, or the most interesting clips of the streams, up on YouTube.
I was also thinking of the D&D, because I know there's quite a market for, I'm part of the market for just turning on and watching people playing D&D.
Oh, yeah, no. D&D I also stream onto YouTube, and have been trying to put up VODs of old D&D streams up on YouTube. So that's there. That is on my channel. I should have a new episode up soon-ish. It's just been... the past couple weeks have not been great, so I have not gotten anywhere near as much done as I intended. That sort of thing. But yeah, have a good time, everyone. Bye. Well,
Okay.
kind of bye. I'm gonna be if you're watching me on Twitch, I'm gonna be gone for like 2 minutes. But
Okay.
yeah, bye.
Peace.